This is Nasha Kasha, Ukrainian Almanac. 28 minutes of stories for everyone about Ukrainian life. Nasha Kasha is heard on 15 campus and community radio stations from Newfoundland to British Columbia. Vitayu. My name is Stefan Andrusiak. Welcome to this, our 165th episode. It's the only Ukrainian festival in Canada that puts the word capital right there in its title. Located in Canada's capital city, Ottawa, 5 years running, the Capital Ukrainian Festival was and is, well, a capital idea. It is Saturday, July 20th, 2019, and I'm standing beneath the domes of St. John the Baptist Ukrainian Catholic Shrine. On stage in the vast green space beside the church, Vasil Popadyuk and his band are going through their sound check. Display and food tent volunteers are preparing their cabbage roll and borscht stations for the onslaught of hungry attendees. Near the entrance to this festival stands a fashion jewelry and music kiosk. It's called Yevshan. Yevshan is the name of a mythical Ukrainian herb. Legend has it that the Yevshan herb promotes remembrance. And this is where today's stories begin.
My name is Marika Sochan.
And my name is Bohdan Timit.
You are a staple at Ukrainian festivals across this country and in the United States.
We certainly are. We have a great enjoyment in presenting Ukrainian culture in its many forms by Ukrainian artists, music and artwork and cultural items.
And it's nice to see that people have an interest in traditions, culture, something they grew up with. And basically this is what we do.
Where are you based right now?
We're based in Kirkland, Quebec. We have a warehouse there, and we support all of our clients as well as Ukrainian schools and work groups, Pisanka groups, so all of these items are very important.
Where did you grow up?
In New Jersey, and my ancestors, my parents and grandparents came in the 50s because of the war, but they came via the displaced persons camps, and their camps actually were very rich also as far as the culture and the arts, and it was almost like a little Ukrainian city. And from there, they took a boat and they came to New Jersey, and they've been there since.
How did your early years inform your Ukrainian, where you are today as a businesswoman?
I was involved in music and the Ukrainian Music Conservatory in New York and New Jersey.
Which instrument, voice or an instrument?
Piano. We always tried to include Ukrainian music in our repertoire. And my mother did Ukrainian dancing. My father was in Plast, and so was I. So all of this was very formative for us.
Do you still perform or do you still play?
Had I a little bit more time, I would love to. That's on my bucket list for when I retire.
Are you a fashion designer?
It's not our fashion line. We're working closely with a fashion group in Ukraine called Lesya, and also another one called Rito. And they're both outstanding quality, and they have a line that includes the actual Ukrainian ornamentation on their products. Their sweaters, their weaving, their t-shirts for men and women all reflect these particular designs.
Do you and your company as a couple have division of responsibility?
I'm more the accounting and the bookkeeping and the invoicing, and Marika's more the creative person as far as product selection and developing new product lines.
How did you meet?
We met at a Ukrainian festival in Hunter, New York.
Was he selling something?
Yes, he was, and so was I.
What were you selling, and why him?
Well, this was very interesting. I was selling jewelry because as a side interest and as a hobby, I enjoy jewelry, and I actually made some jewelry. So I was selling that, and my husband was selling his CDs right behind us. I noticed that someone was smoking very close by, so of course I complained. And so that was quickly stopped. And then it started to rain, and my husband said, "There's Ukrainian music music playing, come dance. And it was on the stage and it was raining. And I thought he was totally off his rocker. But we went and danced on the stage because he just wouldn't let up. And that's how we met.
I've been to dances growing up as a young man in Montreal, and when Timmets was in the room, I just sit it out because there was no competition with this guy. He was back then a very good dancer. So is that what the quick step? That sold you on him?
I think it was the polka and the waltz. Yeah. And then he just wouldn't let up with the phone calls.
What, was it him smoking?
Him and a friend of his who was selling Ukrainian books, and I found it to be a little overwhelming.
Was that a deal breaker? Did he have to give up smoking in order to take this a step further?
Yes, he did, and he sure did.
The way it happened is we're getting married, we're standing in the aisle going down to church.
And you badly needed a cigarette?
No, she turns around to me and she says, "You're promising me two things, that you're marrying me and you're giving up smoking right now, or I walk." And at that particular moment, the choir is singing, the priest is standing, then I had to make a decision.
What was the choir singing?
Hallelujah.
What makes for a good marital business partnership?
We're 24/7. All the time we travel together, we live together, and we work together. You have to learn how to understand everybody's space around you, respect the other person for their opinion. You work as a team. It's not easy sometimes, but at the same time, we've been doing it for 30 odd years, and we're still here.
What's selling today? What is it that is flying off the shelf or under your display cases?
Well, right now, you never know, but today it's the embroidered shirts. There's some really well-made jewelry, the trezubs, and even things like little Pandora beads. Those have been going today very well with the Ukrainian designs.
Is there something that you could pass on by way of knowledge to anyone who might want to take this lifestyle up, this business up in the future, that's thinking of getting into it?
As far as the Ukrainian community, it's something that you wish to do just because it's something you really believe in and you want to do, and you have to work very hard. It's not something that will be a windfall as far as profits, but it's something that is very rewarding as far as seeing people that appreciate, or people that will come back later or call and say, you know, I bought this item, I bought this book, I bought this piece of jewelry, and I just love it so much, and that really gives you a sense of, okay, maybe we're doing something right.
Was there an aha moment for both of you in Ukraine or here about embroidery in general and its meaning? You're on the fashion end, on the creative end.
You have to look for something that's contemporary, and you have to look for something that is really iconic as far as the culture and recognizable. And this is something that really unites everyone. It is not political, it is not religious, it's cultural. And you want to be more modern also. You don't want to do the same old. So really you're looking for new ways to represent these ancient designs, these ancient traditions, but make it palatable to today's youth and today's people.
Apart from just being Ukrainian, there's something a lot deeper that's associated with the embroidery and the vyshyvanka. Nobody ever will throw away a vyshyvanka, no matter what. It's almost sacrilegious. If you've had a shirt as being a kid, you'll never throw it away. You'll hand it down. We have to remember what Shevchenko said. He said, you really don't understand Ukraine until you leave the country. And I think these people come over here, they're lost in this Canadian or American sea. They're not Italian, they're not French, they're not Inuit, they're not Polish, they're not whatever, they're Ukrainian. And they'll come out to these festivals to share who they are. And one of the marks that they wear is an embroidered shirt.
Сорочка мама вишивала, неначе долю хрестиком вела, щоб я легких стежинок не шукала, і до людей привітною була. Вікону доню мама говорила, життя законне істини прості. Не зраджу землю, що тебе зростила, не залишай нікого у біді. А сорочка мамина біла, біла, а сорочка мамина серцю мила, а сорочка мамина зігріває, я її до серденька пригортаю. Та неначе птахи пролітають, матусі коси димом зацвіли. Я сорочку білу вишиваю, як вишивала матінка мені. Вікону доню мама говорила, життя законне істини прості. Не зраджу землю, що тебе зростила, не залишай нікого у біді. А сорочка мамина біла, біла, а сорочка мамина серцю мила, а сорочка мамина зігріває, я її до серденька пригортаю.
This one guy calls me from LA. He turns around and he says, I need an embroidered shirt. I need it FedExed overnight. And I said, okay, but FedEx overnight, a shirt from Montreal to LA is probably going to run $120. Yeah, not counting the price of a shirt. He says, not a problem. My mom passed away and she made a statement. She wants to be buried in a Vyshyvanka. That person, even after they die, feel that they were part of something. Of course we did. It was there 9 o'clock the next morning.
А сорочка мамина біла, біла, а сорочка мамина серцю мила, а сорочка мамина зігріває, я її до серденька пригортаю. А сорочка мамина біла, біла, а сорочка мамина серцю мила, а сорочка мамина зігріває, я її до серденька пригортаю.
The thing that turns around and establishes a country, it used to be a border that dictated religion, language, a political system, or a natural geographical phenomena like a river or a mountain. Because of social media, because of all of this communication that we're living in, the borders are changing. And I think the future countries that are going to exist in the world will not be bound by geographical territories as they have been written for the past thousands of years. They're going to be cultural groups spread all over the world.
Nasha Kasha comes to you from CHRW 94.9 FM on the campus of Western University in London, Ontario. We're heard on CHMR 93.5 FM in St. John's, Newfoundland, on CKDU 88.1 FM in Halifax, on Local 107.3 FM in St. John, New Brunswick, on CJAS Radio 93.5 FM in St. Augustine, Quebec, on CJLO 1690 AM in Montreal, on CFRC 101.9 FM in Kingston, on CFMU 93.3 FM in Hamilton, on CKMS 102.7 FM in Kitchener-Waterloo, on CKLU 96.7 FM in Sudbury, on CILU 102.7 FM in Thunder Bay, on 101.5 UMFM in Winnipeg, on CFMQ 98.1 FM in Hudson Bay, Saskatchewan, on CFBX 92.5 FM in Kamloops, and on CIVL 101.7 FM in Abbotsford, British Columbia. We're also a podcast, which is available just about everywhere. If you like Nasha Kasha, please rate us on Apple iTunes. In the first half of the program, you heard segments from Alleluia by the Basilian Students Choir from their album Liturgical Treasures. The Kubasonics' Ukrainian melody was off the bonus track of their album Kuba Funland, and Teresa Sekerka sang Mamina Sorochka, my mother's embroidered blouse.
Karwatsky, and I just recently wrote a book about my father's store. The title is My Father's Store and Other Stories. It's about a Ukrainian community in Montreal at the time in the 50s and 60s.
I'm Michael Lichatch. I'm the brother of the authoress. Must admit I found the book rather interesting because there were surprising things in there that I didn't even know about myself.
Can you take me back to the roots of your family? How did the Lichatchi find their way to Quebec?
My grandparents, first of all, came in 1913, Anna Stanko and Ilya Cher. We didn't even know until I went to Halifax to find out at the Pier 21 Museum that they actually came on the same ship, fell in love, and finally in Montreal got married. So that was one story. Then my father came alone, and he wasn't connected to them at all, of course. He came alone in 1928 on the Scandinavian-American ship line.
Yes, interestingly enough, both my mother's parents and my father came from a very close region, which today is under Poland, but it basically is the Lubachivshchina region. So that would be one of my father's Selo is Stare Selo, meaning the old village, which is a common name in Ukraine, and my grandparents were from Dekiu, and that would be not too far from Peremyshel in Yaroslav.
Brother, sister, are there any other siblings in the family?
Yes, we have a younger brother, Peter, and so I'm the oldest, my sister is the middle.
And what was growing up in Montreal like?
Growing up in Montreal in Rosemount was just a fabulous situation because that was a new suburb at the time. So all the people coming over, of course I lived there already, I grew up in Rosemount, but people coming after the Second World War would pour into Rosemount, which had behind my father's store was all fields and Nesbitt Farm and horses. So the air was fresh and clean. It was just beautiful. And growing up in the store was fascinating because all the people that came in, we'd have doctors, professors, the priests from all the churches, and the community was just building up like a shotgun. You'd have Ukrainian churches popping up like St. Sophie's Orthodox Cathedral. We had the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary Catholic Church right across the street. And then you had the bus terminus on 12th and Bovia, which eventually turned into the SUM Youth Center.
Did your father and mother both work in the store?
Oh, yes.
And what did they sell? What kind of a store?
It was basically a grocery store, which today in Quebec you would call dépanneur. So they sold canned goods, but what would mostly interest Ukrainian, Polish people or immigrants was the kobasa, the ham, shinka, stuff like this.
So it was a deli as well.
Yes, exactly. I used to tell my father from time to time that he should charge amusement tax, just like the movie theaters were, because he was such a social man, and he had the people that would come would tell him their stories, so forth. He even had a back room which was partly a beer storage area now, but had originally been our tiny living room when we were still in very small quarters. And there he would say the local priests, lawyers, doctors, and ordinary folk would come in, and he would say, well, that was our living room. So of course they anybody could come in.
I would love to have been in on the conversation when your father informed your mother that, sorry, we had a living room, but now it'll be a beer storage room and presentation area.
My mother was really the business person. She grew up in Montreal, in Point St. Charles. She's Ukrainian, two of my Ukrainian grandparents who came over, and she had the business sense. So she ordered all the stock. She took me with her to Saint Laurent to buy kasha from the nice Jewish people that were selling to us, and she even ordered magic form silk stockings because my Uncle Johnny had a stocking company in the West End. My mother actually was the one that was the dynamo, I would say, even though she was a quiet person, a very beautiful person, very beautiful physically person. She was really the brains behind it, and my father was the comedian who told everybody jokes. They loved it. They never left the store, and she used to say, why are they hanging around so long, So she was really something. And this woman who read my book, she says, you know what? That's really a tribute to your mother, isn't it? So I said, I'm probably.
Was it a profitable store? Did you feel privileged growing up?
It had to be profitable. My sister writes in her book that my father was born under a lucky star because he just bought the store in 1946, and that's when the area was opening up. And to have the first trolleybus line in Montreal that originally had stopped at 6th Avenue, they made the terminus right across the street of my father's store. Originally, that was just going to last a few years, but because Mayor Drapeau of Montreal didn't want trolleybus lines extended, it became the spot where people exchanged from one trolleybus to the gas bus. And later, once that ended, the Ukrainians bought the land and built the youth center.
Коли літо приходить, гаряча пора, і на сірому камені плавиться тінь. Коли дзвінко кричить, на смітниках і двора, говорити, ходити і думати лінь. Коли сонце розжарене над містом висить, і від чаду машин кругом іде голова, я згадаю про холодних озер блакить, куди їздив колись старенький трамвай. Повези мене туди, де природа сама, повези мене за місто, де асфальту нема, повези мене туди, де зелена трава, повези, повези, о, старенький трамвай, пам-па-ба-ба-пам, пам-па-ба-ба-пам, ту-ту-ту.
I got my master's in counseling psychology, so I became a guidance counselor. Most of my career was in guidance, but I always loved writing. I was the editor of my school newspaper in Holy Names, which served 800 girls, so that was quite interesting. I always loved writing, but there was no journalism in Montreal at the time, so McGill didn't offer it, nobody offered it. So I said I'll go for psychology, which is the second choice.
What was your academic pursuit?
Mine was, sort of haphazard. I majored in English, but later I took courses in teaching, and I became an elementary school teacher. Mostly grades 4, 5, 6. In the early 60s, they had masses in the school, and they wanted something to be something a bit modern and different, and I had taken international folk dancing. There was a possibility when Pope John Paul II was going to the Olympic Stadium that they said if I would prepare something a little bit on the sidewalk, that in case he would have the time to stop, that he would be able to see it. Unfortunately, they were behind schedule, and my sister says in the book, he sort of waved as he went by. No, but it would have been interesting if the Pope had stepped out, and here's a Ukrainian teaching basically Italian kids an Israeli religious dance for a Polish Pope. I mean, we come full circle.
Yeah, well, that's wonderful, wonderful. So pick up the story as you started to write it in your father and mother's tribute.
Actually, I wrote how he came. I described the ship coming from Ukraine and how he left his family in Ukraine. And very sad, his mother had died when he was 9 years old. So he's waving to his sisters, gave him an embroidered handkerchief to take to Canada for good luck. And then I wrote a bit about the way he worked as a young man in Anticosti Island, which is fabulous, fabulous information, historical fact. Anticosti Island is just north of the Gulf of St. Lawrence, just there, but it's a beautiful, untouched, natural. Well, they had lumber yards at the time, so they were working on the railroad. So I have a whole story about that. But the main story is about my father's store, so I just start writing that my father, was in the store. He has his hands on the counter, and he looks like a young William Holden, except with brown eyes. My father was bilingual, Polish and Ukrainian, from Ukraine. They learned that. He was a warm person.
What are the thoughts that you want to leave your reader with?
I think it's really family values to a certain extent, and the way, your parents, they teach you quite a bit that you never even know that they're teaching you at the time. And years later, you start repeating whatever they said. And Ukrainian values, of course, very important. I mean, I went on to win Father Jean Scholarship. I went on to McGill University. My brother was very successful as a teacher. That's all part of our Ukrainian parents that gave us that support, that courage to go forward and not be afraid. Just keep going. My son Paul is a CTV anchor. Paul Karwatsky in Montreal, one of the top anchors with Mitsumi and Takahashi. And my son Peter, the older one, is an optometrist in Montreal who won a fellowship from the American Academy of Optometrists a few years ago.
Anything you'd like to add to that in terms of a conclusion?
The store was eventually sold because my father was very reluctant to let it go. It was eventually sold to Ukrainians, so that certain part of the business, the cold cut business, is continuing with the Zhitynskys. And as far as my sister's book, I was a real doubting Thomas and thinking, oh, this is not going to be anything, or maybe there's thing there that I might not like. But I would say it's sort of episodic, and she describes different events that happened along the way, so that actually you could open the book, see the title, and just read the several pages connected with that. So I must admit, with every reading and rereading of the book, I'm enjoying it more and more, and I'm looking forward to a sequel, as long as she doesn't reveal too much.
About you.
Oh, exactly.
Well, it sounds like his doubt of you has been forgiven.
Thank God. I'm really happy that, because he did help me a lot. He's got such a fantastic memory of the past, and he spent his life speaking in Ukrainian to my grandparents and my father, and he learned so much about them. He's really a fantastic person.
Well, good luck. And your book has been accepted or honored at Pier 21.
Yeah, it's been accepted into the Canadian Museum of Immigration, Halifax, Pier 21. 2 chapters are to be open to the public, I think, digitally, of course, in 2020, forever, I think. It's unbelievable. It's going to live far longer than us.
Your mother would want to know, are you making any money on your book?
My mother would want to know, yes, of course I'm making money. But I'm not becoming anywhere near any kind of a millionaire. It's just a work of love, and that's what it was to me. I love writing, period.
Good luck to you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story with me.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you.
You're listening to Picardijska Tercia, Starenki Tramvaj. It's a song about an old trolley. Little old trolley, take me away to where there is no asphalt. Partial funding for Nasha Kasha comes from the Shevchenko Foundation, the Ukrainian Credit Union, and on this occasion from the Capital Ukrainian Festival.
Повези мене туди, де природа сама, повези мене за місто, де асфальту нема, повези мене туди, де зелена трава, повези, старенький трамвай, повези, старенький трамвай, повези, старенький трамвай.
Back in a week, God willing, до милої зустрічі за тиждень часу, дорогі слухачі.